Welcome back. In this episode, we tackle the last major quest line of the EV tier, liquid air distillation, where we transform End Stone and Netherrack into rare gases like Argon, Neon, and Radon. This is star technology. Let's get into it. So since the last episode, I've been pretty busy doing lots of little tweaks around the base. One example is through here. I had the sudden realization that the way that the pattern providers work with things like the molecular assembler, if they have adjacent blocks that can do the same pattern, that it will use them. So I've realized I can actually make these circuit assemblers build their circuits much quicker if I just build a second circuit assembler, have it on the one pattern provider. So I was finding that things like this IV circuit and then the EV circuit were taking a long time, and you always need lots of them. I don't like waiting around. I like things to be quick. What else has happened? Oh, okay, this is new. Yeah, so I set up a system to make cupric chloride solution because I realized that that is useful in etching circuit boards. There's a quest for it in the quest book as well. Yeah, so I've done that. This is where my power setup was. Got rid of that, and now it's over here. I've got two power setups. One is for, as the name suggests, lapidary power. So these are running off diamonds. Gotten rid of the kinetic sieve because that was not meeting my needs. I needed to expand it. I didn't want to build multiple kinetic sieves. They take up a lot of space, which I don't like. Build a few of these flux sieves instead with a wall here that's making the sand for it. I think I worked out a flux sieve with the 3 diamond upgrades produces almost twice as much per minute. I needed to expand it a bit, so I built 2, and so that's doing pretty well. And as you can see, the number is going up because that got down to 0, obviously. So I've got the lapidary power network and the main network. The lapidary power network is powering all of distillation stuff. So its entire job is to provide the power to make high octane gasoline. So the lapidary power is only just above idle in terms of how much it's producing, 75 to 100,000 RF per tick. Doing pretty well. The battery for it is almost always full. The high octane gasoline power, a bit more strain on that, but still pretty good. It's still more in the 200,000 range. Compression dynamos themselves, which I've got 6 here, and room for expansion as well, as you can see. That one's running at 10%, that one's 100, that's at 10%. This setup here is producing plenty of power for us at the moment. It's running a lot of stuff, and I think this will keep us going quite some time because we have loads of high octane gasoline and we produce it quite quickly. High octane gasoline was one of the things we wanted to achieve, I think, in the previous episode, but we sort of ran out of time, so I thought I was going to put it into this episode. But then between episodes, I started to kind of look into it, and I got a little bit carried away and ended up sort of building the entire process because it didn't turn out to be that hard. I now have a setup here for lightly hydrocracked light fuel. So that is to get the octane. So if you recall a few episodes ago, we talked about how we were going to do steam cracking for all these things. And hydrocracking would give us a few additional things that we couldn't get through steam cracking. One of those is octane, and that is needed for high octane gasoline. So I set up just a cracker and a distillation tower. I think butane is the other thing you get from that, but we're not using that at the moment, I don't think. Yes, so I've got some passive setups here for various ingots that we need. So I've got titanium, aluminium, and this one here is tungsten steel. Because I realized that tungsten steel is going to be important in the next tier. We're going to need loads of it. I've realized that having everything run through this electric blast furnace here on demand for things like the ingots you need for making stuff, you end up waiting for a very long time. I'd rather have passive processes that can kind of just be making it in the background, and then there's always available. You should passive anything that's slow to make, in my opinion. Case in point, the cupric chloride that I talked about before, this takes 20 seconds to make one single bucket. Typical operation at this level, to make one circuit board, I think you need half a bucket, maybe even a whole bucket. So 20 seconds is a long time to wait. However, if this is just running in the background, then it fills up, which is great. Yeah, okay, a lot of updates. I've been busy in between episodes. I just log in, just tweak a few little things, and I could have done an episode on all the different things I was doing, but a lot of disjointed little things. I don't know if that would make for a good episode. But yeah, I think I've done enough talking of the intro. I don't even know how much of this I'm going to include in the episode. I might end up cutting a lot of this, to be honest. So looking at the quest book, we have almost finished EV. There's not much left. There's a few sort of random nodes around the place, but the main thing that's left unfinished the air distillation. So you've got liquid air, liquid nether air, and liquid ender air. So liquid air is pretty easy. All we have to do is get some gas collectors and run the gas through a vacuum freezer and then run it through a distillation tower, and then we get the air products out. That's pretty easy. For the liquid nether air and the liquid ender air, we actually have to start with End Stone and Netherrack. So netherrack is made in a large chemical reactor using redstone dust and 32 buckets of lava. Once we have the netherrack, we run it through a macerator to produce netherrack dust and a chance output of a gold nugget. Then we take the netherrack dust and run it through an extractor, which turns it into nether agglomeratio. Then using the nether agglomeratio in a mixer with 12 buckets of air creates 12 buckets of nether air. The equivalent for End Stone is basically the same. Instead of redstone, we use glowstone dust. Then we do the same process of macerating it. Then we take the End Stone dust and run it through an extractor, which produces end agglomeratio. And then we take the end agglomeratio with 6 buckets of nether air, which makes 6 buckets of ender air. So there's a slight difference there because we're using nether air instead of air, and we actually need slightly less. What that means is we'll need to create more nether air because some of it's going to be used in the production of ender air. I think we're going to produce a bunch of this stuff. We're going to get some interesting gases, and then the lava will run out. And then we won't be producing it very fast. Because my lava production is, well, terrible. I built this a long time ago, and it is extremely slow. It takes 40 seconds to make a bucket. That's pretty terrible. I don't want to build lots of these large stone barrels. Apparently this is one of the slowest ways you can make lava, so let's not do that. I have a feeling that we might have to look into mystical agriculture, because there is a way to make lava from that. We're using essence burning, you make 5 buckets of lava, so it's 1 bucket every second. I think long term we're going to need a better lava source, but in the short term we can continue with our plans, and once we run out of lava, then the gas production will stop. My plan was to have 3 gas collectors here, put it through a vacuum freezer, and then distill it. So this will be the air distillation. So what we'll have here is we'll have a mixer that makes the nether air, and we have an extractor to make the nether agglomeratio, and we'll have a macerator that makes the netherrack dust. Then we need to make the netherrack, which will be over here. So this will be a large chemical reactor, and then the same situation will happen for End Stone, etc. So I think that will work. First of all, we're going to build this section here, just the standard liquid air process. We might as well get to it, I guess. We need program circuit 1 for these. Okay, awesome, very loud, let's fix that. Probably hook up some storage buses to those, but for the moment, let's just let that happen, and let's build a vacuum freezer. There's nothing particularly special about the vacuum freezer, so I'll just build it and come back. And then I guess the distillation tower. So we are distilling liquid air. Oh, okay. 50 buckets. So we're gonna need a pretty big hatch, and also some pretty big output ones. That's 35 buckets of nitrogen. All right, let's build the distillation tower. So we'll start with the energy hatches. A HV input hatch on the side, the distillation tower itself, an output bus, then a series of output hatches. Now we're going to use MV ones because we're expecting quite large quantities of some of these fluids. And then we just need the stainless steel casings. Done. So that's all good to go. And so is that. I might actually move that output hatch because I've actually reoriented this anyway. I might just tweak that and come back. Okay, so I've done a little bit of cabling, and these are all powered up and have been added to the ME network as required. So what I've done here is I've placed a super tank so that those 3 gas collectors are now outputting into the super tank using some very chunky polytetrafluoroethylene fluid pipe here. I've got a storage bus on that, partitioned for air, basically ready to come into here, where we'll set this up. This will produce the liquid air. And over here, I'll set up this interface, which I already have to request the liquid air. So I guess the next step would be to ask for the air here. All right, that's kicked off. That's working very quickly. That's pretty good. And that's being requested by this machine here. This should be filled up. Is it working though? No, it's not. What am I doing wrong? Why is the liquid air not happening? 50 buckets of liquid air. We've got crushed ice as an optional output. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 gases. Large is just 35. Ah, that would be the problem. I am got 32 bucket hatches. All right. I need another HV one. All right, cool. That's kicking on. 25 seconds. That's overclocked to IV as well. So that's, yeah, it's not a quick process, that's for sure. Let's get a super tank on that. Allow inputs. So I don't like the fact that sticks out, but yeah, okay. That's good enough for now. And now I guess what I need to do is put interfaces on here because we want to import some of these. So what's this one? Argon and helium, carbon dioxide, and oxygen. We don't want oxygen. I think I've come up with something that will work. I think there's a better solution out there somewhere. I just can't think of it at the moment. I'll have to spend some time offline, I think, and let my subconscious deal with it. But what I've done is I've got 2 super tanks, one for the nitrogen and one for the oxygen. Set them both to be fluid voiding, and I've locked them even though the locking won't work. But what I've done is I've set up storage buses on them that have been partitioned and set them to be extract only. So the ME system shouldn't try to push anything into here and void them. The only thing that could possibly be voided is what's coming in from the back, like the actual distillation tower. And if it doesn't match what's in here, it shouldn't be able to do it, I'm hoping. I don't know, we'll see, I guess. So if we come over here, have a quick look, we should see Argon is building up. So only 7 buckets currently, not much. Got a little bit of helium, which is good. And we should have a bit of crushed ice. Figure out what to do with that later, I guess. What are we using Argon for? Aha, okay. So coming up soon in the electric blast furnace, we're gonna have to use Argon as a gas. Cool, all right. Well, we've got a source of that happening slowly. So let's have a look how this process is working. So I'm pretty sure that, yeah, they would have filled up already. Yeah, so that's maxed out the amount of air we have, which is great. This is producing lots of liquid air. This is the slow part. It'd be nice to upgrade this with IV hatches once we have access to that, but I think that's a little while off. The next part is really just going to be a bit of a mess, I think. Because first we need to tackle making of netherrack and end stone. So I guess we should build some chemical reactors. So we're going to build 2 of them. Start with the energy hatches. All right, the multi-blocks, the PDFE pipe casings, and the copper-nickel coil blocks, auto maintenance hatches, fill in a few of those guys, input bus for the redstone, for the lava, and the same over here, and they're just output buses, and now we just fill it in. Done. 2 large chemical reactors. I've built so many of those. If you have been following along for a little while, you remember that back when I built my first one, I made the mistake of building a whole bunch of these PTFE pipe casings. Like I built 32 or something like that. I've actually used them all up. So I've had to build some more. Not that they're very hard, but I thought that that would be enough. But I've, yeah, got so many of them. It's ridiculous. Anyway, sorry, getting distracted. So this should be ready to go. So we're going to need interfaces here and over here. So the top one's pretty easy. That's lava. Okay, done. This one I think will be glowstone. And this one will be redstone. Program circuit 0. because 0 is not the same as empty. I have to run quite a long cable because there's nothing in this area, so I guess I'll do that and I'll come back. All right, so these guys have kicked off. Oh, okay, these are going very fast. That is going to eat our lava very quickly. That's a good thing, right? We now have End Stone and we now have Netherrack. So given how quickly they produce it, I think I can probably get away with storage buses on these. All right, so they're set up. The next step is to macerate the Netherrack here. So we need a macerator. And then we're going to want an extractor. Energy hatch. Cobar casings for a mixer. Put that in. Multi-block upgrade kit. Auto maintenance hatch. Now we're going to need an input there. Just for the moment, I'll fill that in just to finish the block. So now we need to configure this. We want interface. So this will be importing Netherrack, and we want it to output into the machine next to it. Let's hook that up and get that started. Now I import Netherrack here. Pop one in there. So this is now producing the nether agglomeration very quickly. Let's do that. This machine is silent. Huh, okay. What's next? We are going to need normal air and nether agglomeration. So I guess what we can do... Actually, if we're super keen, we could put the thing down there, couldn't we? Huh, look at that. It's already pulled it in because it just grabs it. Put an interface on that. That. And then just say, let's give us some air. Now, what am I missing? Ah, okay. It's quite obvious when you think about it. There's no output. 12 buckets, right? No problem. Let's make a LV output hatch. And I guess we'll put up the top here. Kicked off. Not too quick, but that's all right. Next question is, are we going to want to buffer that at all? For the moment, I'll put a storage bus on here. Once we've sorted out our lava situation, then I can just let it go free. So I'll do that and partition that. Cool. All right, that's that done. I should do the same for this one here, I think. Stupidly, I only built one of each of those two and collected the parts for one mixer. So I'm going to go away and build another one of those and I'll come back. All right, that's all built. So I've done the same thing using the import bus on the inside there. Let's cable it up. As you can hear, it's already kicked off. That's making the end stone and putting it into the end stone dust, extracting it into there. Now we just need to supply this with air. Sorry, nether air. There we go. I may have to rebuild this later to allow me to stack a second one on top. Hang on, let me just silence this. But I need to take half of the output of here, vacuum freeze it, and then distill it. And then the other half needs to go into here to be turned into ender air. This is going to be a bottleneck. I think these... Oh, okay. Gold nuggets. Yeah, okay, that's a little quirk I'm going to have to figure out. That's a little bit annoying. I don't want these little nuggets appearing. Like, why would you want that? 5% chance. Yuck. Okay. Does the end stone... Yeah, it does. Tungstate dust. Okay, yeah, because that's going to jam up the works, isn't it? All right, well, I'm going to have to put a conveyor with a robot arm with a filter to pull it out so it doesn't output. Yuck. All right, well, that's something I've got to deal with. Yeah, the problem I'm going to have... So what I was trying to say before is I think these two processes are fast enough. I think all we've got to do is double this. What I need to do next is build 2 vacuum freezers and 2 distillation towers, and I will do that offline, so you don't need to see it. So I will come back in a moment. Okay, I've built the 2 vacuum freezers and the 2 distillation towers. You may notice that that block there is not completing. It's not happy. That's because there's a block missing. And it may stop us from getting this working just for a little bit until we figure something out. So let's start over here. This is the distillation of the liquid nether air. Liquid nether air distillation requires 100 buckets of liquid nether air as an input and produces 72 buckets of carbon monoxide, and that's quite a lot. So we've had to go up to using an EV input hatch on this because that handles 128 buckets. So we've got an EV output hatch, LV output hatches. Ender air is interesting because it requires 200 buckets of input. EV input hatch can't handle that, obviously. So we've had to go up to the next tier, which is IV. The IV output hatch requires an IV machine hull and laminated glass. Now, IV machine hull, I can actually build that now. It's pretty easy. Got polytetrafluoroethylene, tungsten steel, all that kind of stuff. But it requires this thing called laminated glass. And that's made in the forming press, which we haven't had to build one for a long time, but that's fine. We can just build another one, which requires tempered glass and polyvinyl butyrol plate. And we don't have polyvinyl butyrol. So the way you make liquid polyvinyl butyrol is with butyraldehyde and polyvinyl acetate, neither of which we have. Butyraldehyde is made from propene, hydrogen, and carbon monoxide. Okay, we can do that. And the polyvinyl acetate, there's a few different ways to make it, but essentially, air and vinyl acetate, which we don't have. Vinyl acetate is made from oxygen, acetic acid, and ethylene. So we've got several annoying little multi-step processes just to make that one laminated glass that we need for that. So that's more than I was expecting to have to do at this point. Given we just need that one, I'm not going to build machines for this. I'm just going to do the bare minimum. I'm going to do this with buckets. For the moment, this will have to wait, but we can hook this one up. I will do that and come back. Okay, that should kick off now, which it has. And now over here, we should be able to import liquid nether air. This is going to take a little while to fill up because it requires 100 buckets of it. So this produces 4 buckets every 2 seconds. So this is going to take 50 seconds to fill. So this is working now. What have we got? Nothing there. Carbon monoxide, coal gas, hydrogen sulfide, sulfur dioxide, helium-3, and neon gas. So helium-3 is different to helium. What's special about helium-3? Oh, okay. You can centrifuge normal helium to make helium-3. What's helium-3 used for? Okay, it's used in the fusion reactor to make oxygen plasma. Okay, yeah. So there's uses for it, but just not anything that we need to worry about at the moment. Let's just put some interfaces on here. So we want to import the neon gas, helium-3, might as well import sulfur dioxide and hydrogen sulfide. Coal gas, we can further distill, I guess, and carbon monoxide is probably worth it as well. All right, so well, that's that done. The only thing is we still can't do the one thing we wanted to do, which is having access to this radon. Because radon is from this tower. But I think we need to do this thing of making the laminated glass, just so we get that finished. So let's break this down. We need some butyraldehyde and some polyvinyl acetate. So let's start with this. Is this easy to make? Yes. Okay, we just need to find a chemical reactor, put those 3 things in. One of those, one of those, one of those. Uh-oh. What's it making? Methanol. Okay, that's a mistake. Forgot to set the Pregum circuit. No, I just need to put them in the right order. Propene, hydrogen, carbon monoxide. Propene, hydrogen, carbon monoxide. There we go. All right, so that's making a little bit of that. We need to make the polyvinyl acetate, air and vinyl acetate. So how do we make vinyl acetate? Ethylene, acetic acid, and oxygen. All right, so that was program circuit 3. Oxygen, acetic acid, ethylene. We just need to react those 2 together. Polyvinyl acetate, butyraldehyde. There we go. Liquid polyvinyl butyrol. I need to solidify that, I think. Casting mold. Okay, yep. Done. All right, got my 4 ingots of that. Actually, yeah, how do I make a polyvinyl butyl plate? Extruder. Where is it? There's my plates. And now the final step, laminated glass in a forming press. Now, I don't think I've got a forming press that's of the right thing. It's not even hooked up to the ME network, because the only forming press I ever built was this one, which is an advanced forming press, which is too low. So forming press is not something I have had to use much. I'll have to look into what a forming press is for. Tempered glass and polyvinyl butyl. Grab that, let that just go there and come back to it. And now I just need an IV machine hull. Platinum cable. Oh, crap. How did I make... So I've encoded that recipe, but never made the platinum cable. Oh my gosh, this is a journey. So we need a 1x platinum cable, but we don't have liquid silicone rubber or liquid styrene butadiene rubber yet. And there's no other options. I knew I needed to make silicone rubber or styrene butadiene soon. I didn't want to have to. I was so close to finishing this thing. It's just one little thing. Just let me have this. Come on. What are you doing to me? Come on. What? Which one do I make? Do I make liquid silicone or styrene butadiene? Now, my way of thinking is that because this requires less, it means it's the more advanced one. Maybe that will have more use in the future than silicone. Well, there's 93 recipes that use it, so that's a good sign. Sulfur and that. What's that? It's butadiene, styrene, oxygen. Okay, got those two. Don't have styrene. What's styrene? Ethylene and benzene, which we both have. Okay, well, there's chemical reactor stuff, shenanigans I need to do now. Okay, I'm going to have to take a little break. This has worn me out. I'm gonna come back to it. Okay, so I'm holding in my hand the IV machine hull. I decided to half-ass it. I didn't want to build a whole chemical reactor process for making styrene and the actual butadiene rubber. So I decided instead just to do that a little bit by hand, because we're not about that right at this moment. I just want to get this distillation process working. Sometime in the future, when I have more time, I'll build the proper process. So we're going to need these two together, make an IV input hatch. Done. And let's get this installed and call it a day. All right, there we go. Whew. All right. Now, how do we hook this up? And I should start filling up. And then we should finally get what we've been waiting for this whole time, which is the radon. The whole point of this is I wanted to make that EV emitter, which requires the quantum eye. Look at that. Okay, that's cool. And then I guess what I want to build is the circuit assembler. That would be a good place to round this episode out, I think. And then this guy, the Advanced Circuit Assembler 3. Done. All right. So stick that here. Awesome. Okay. So that allows us to make some better circuits, I think. No, that allows us to do the system on a chip. So now we can do this recipe because this required an EV circuit assembler in the clean room. So we can re-encode the LV tier circuits. Doubles the amount of LV circuits we create. Oh, okay, cool. Well, I think that wraps it up. I don't think there's anything more that I want to do at this point. Aside from having a lie down, that has been quite a journey this episode. Very excited about the fact that we got all of this done. I am going to need to do something about my lava situation. I'm pretty sure that's going to be running out shortly. I need to do some tweaking and some optimization here, I think, just to speed things up. But that, I think, is something for another time. Well, that was quite a journey, that episode. Turned out to be a lot more complex and fiddly than I was expecting. But we've completed it and it's all good. So next episode, I am looking forward to entering the IV tier. Lots to do in there. Very exciting. I will actually build that styrene butadiene rubber setup. Thanks for watching. Appreciate your support. If you're enjoying this content, then please subscribe and I'll see you in the next video. Cheers.